Jim, thank you very much for joining us.
Hey, it's good to be with you, Modest, and I hope Adam is feeling better soon.
Yep, we do too. So this morning on the Gateway Pundit, Joshua Kaplan wrote an article displaying how utterly abysmal Hillary's favorability is. In a Bloomberg poll, she has 39% favorability, and in a Suffolk University poll, she has an extremely low 35%. So even though Trump has been pretty unpopular in his beginning, especially among Democrats, among Republicans not as much, but why do you think that Hillary's so unpopular even on the left?
You know, I think they don't appreciate that she lost. And I think a lot of that is the fact that she lost an election that many on the left believe was, hers for the taking. And here there was such a stunning result in November. Now, if you were reading the Gateway Pundit at the time, you would have known that we were predicting Trump all along on a number of factors. But the left was running these phony polls where they overweighted Democrats. And then come Election Day, they were stunned when she gets beat in, of all places, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. They never, in their wildest dream, believed that Hillary, would lose any of those states. Mm-hmm. So I think part of it is, and most of it is just that they're pretty upset that she was able to lose to Donald Trump.
Right. So Trump Care. Let's get into that. Trump Care, so far it's been a disaster, even though Trump himself, President Trump, has referred to Obamacare as a disaster. It seems that Trump Care has now become a disaster in terms of it's not getting the votes, and many of the people are not too happy with the bills that have been proposed. So why do you think it is that it's failed so badly? Do you think that it's because of leadership, such as Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan? As I saw on the Gateway Pundit today, there was an article about how a Trump official thinks that it's totally their fault. But do you think that also some of the blame falls on the GOP senators, such as Rob Portman and Susan Collins, and even some people on the more conservative wing of the Republican Party, such as Mike Lee, have also pulled out of it? So who do you blame more, the leadership or the senators?
I think this is a leadership problem for sure. And what McConnell's needed to do is he's herding a bunch of cats. People will go in different directions. And I look at it this way. To me, I grew up with a lot of brothers, a big family. I grew up playing sports, team sports. Mm-hmm. And I think when you grow up and you're around activities like that, you learn how to work with others. You learn that you give your best. And you do your best, but at the end of the day, it's all for the team. And right. Unfortunately, it looks like with some of these people who we have in the Senate today, these Republicans, they're just not willing to play ball. It's either, it's my rules or I take my ball and I go home. So that's what we're seeing, and it's disgusting. It's just, I really, at the beginning of the year, I heard some naysayers say that they're going to sabotage Trump. And I thought, oh, no way, that won't happen. And now 6 months in, and they've done nothing. And the headline on Drudge today is it's the most unproductive Congress ever. On the other hand, Trump is, he's having tremendous success in his initiatives. My twin brother, who is a big banker in Hong Kong, put together a post today on how if the economic numbers continue the way they are, Trump will be the most successful economic president in history.
Right.
Of course, this doesn't get any press, and that's why I continue to push my brother to put these types of stories up, because he's reporting the truth. The media is reporting on Russia conspiracies, and the Republicans in the Senate and House, I don't know where they are. I don't know what they're trying to do, but they're certainly not on the Trump train. And I, for one, am very furious with just the past 24 hours. And then this morning we find out that not only could they not pass repeal and replace Obamacare, but they could not even pass a repeal of Obamacare in the Senate. Right. And I'm like, how does that happen, Modest? It's just beyond me. I'm at wit's end with this do nothing Congress right now.
Mhm. Yep. and I definitely think a lot of that falls on the leadership as well. Do you think there's anything that President Trump could do a little bit more, maybe take more of a leadership role if McConnell and Paul Ryan aren't able to rally together the senators in order to pass a good bill? Do you think that there's anything that President Trump could do to maybe put some pressure and maybe take the lead a little bit in what the bill should look like?
I think one thing that needs to happen is Mitch McConnell and Paul Ryan need to step down immediately. Mm-hmm. They've been tremendously unsuccessful. If they were in private business, if they were reporting to corporate board or something, they would be removed. They don't have results. They fiddled around. Mitch McConnell and the Republicans had 7 years to work out a plan to replace Obamacare. They couldn't deliver it. It should have been delivered the first week that Trump was after his inauguration. And now, right, 7 months in, they have nothing. These leaders need to step down because they're not leaders, and they're just getting in the way. And so that's number one. But as far as Trump, what I'm reading is that he actually took a hands-off approach with this Obamacare because he was told that the Senate and House leaders, they had this covered. Well, obviously they didn't. And so now I heard that Trump may be more hands-on with the tax cuts and the tax initiatives. And I hope so, because he's somebody who has a record of results. He has a company of some of the most beautiful properties in the world. Right. And I think Trump could actually get something done.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think, in your opinion, what should a GOP health care bill look like? Because I know there's a lot of different theories on this. Some people even think that we should just let Obamacare collapse, as Trump just said today, actually, that he wants to do that, just let Obamacare collapse, which obviously would probably, I don't know if it would help Republicans, but it would certainly hurt Democrats in terms of it has their name on it and it totally collapsed. And it basically some people think that if Republicans attach their name to it and they try to fix it and it still fails, then it's bad, it's more bad for Republicans. And if they just leave Obamacare to die, then it hurts Democrats, so it's inherently better for Republicans. But do you think it should be something like that? Do you think maybe they should go for more of a compromising approach where they take all opinions into consideration, or do you think it should be a pure repeal of Obamacare?
I think a repeal is fine, and I wouldn't have a problem if they just repealed it. And I like the fact that they give themselves 2 years to work on something.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So that doesn't bother me. Some senators, I heard them today say, "Oh, that isn't fair to the people who've suffered." Well, I got to tell you, I lost 3 different plans. My premiums went up $100 a year. I was up to, for a single guy, they wanted me to pay $775 for a so-called gold plan, and with a deductible of like maybe $2,000. And I was like, at a certain point, I can't imagine what other working families are going through with this piece of crap that the Democrats push through. But Republicans, I think they need to do something, because they're going to get the blame. The media, as much as we would like to think we're making headway, and we are in the conservative media, but the mainstream media, the liberal media, they still, they own the airwaves and the newspapers, and, they're going to flood it with attacks on Republicans. So they need to get something done. I would say repeal it, work on some sort of a replacement plan, and hopefully more free market principles.
Mm-hmm. So also on the Gateway Pundit today, there was a story about Susan Collins, and apparently she's abruptly backing out of the testimony before the House, obviously because of the unmasking, which a lot of people are saying was because of political purposes. Why do you think it is that she's backing out?
Well, it was interesting. I listened to this Greg Jarrett, who's been very interesting lately. He's a contributor on Fox News and Fox Business Network. He's a lawyer, and he was saying she obviously backed out because she knows she's in legal trouble. You don't back out if you think that you're completely innocent. So something's
That's
going
true.
on there. And also, this Jarrett says that, and he listed a number of a number of ways where Democrats broke the law by unmasking this private information of private citizens. And he believes that we're going to see some Obama officials indicted for this illegal activity. And you know what? For one, I would love to see it, because we've seen this lawlessness in government now for at least
Right.
8 years or more. And, I think most Americans are sick of the fact that they suffer under these pieces of crap legislation that this Congress is putting out and this President Obama put out, and yet they didn't have to follow the rules themselves. I think it's disgusting, and Americans are sick of that. So I hope some of these people do go. Maybe we'll see some heads roll, and I for one would be in support of that.
Right. Yeah. It just seems like, especially in the Obama administration, the elites in the bureaucracy have basically received way too much power, and they, for some reason, believe they're above the law, and probably it seems like they're actually getting away with it. But hopefully this is a step in the right direction. Also, on Friday, I don't know if you saw this, but by Temple Mount, I believe it was, in the old city of Jerusalem, there was a shooting where 3 Muslim terrorists opened fire on Israeli police officers, and the officers, 2 of them were actually killed. So I don't know if you saw the news headlines of this, but the New York Times and the BBC both put out very interesting headlines that show an interesting thing about the media. Basically, they both had to retract these headlines. The New York Times wrote, "In Jerusalem, gunmen stage brazen attack near Temple Mount." Well, it says gunmen. It doesn't say anything more than that. Really? Like, we don't know who the gunmen were? Or in the BBC, they wrote, 3 Palestinians killed after deadly stabbing in Jerusalem. I mean, this looks straight out of the Al-Qaeda news network. I mean, they had to pull that down. So what do you think this says about the mainstream media?
I think there's been a hostility towards Israel for a long time. Mm-hmm. I don't think this is anything new. I think it's great that people are calling them out. I think it's shocking that they still think they can get away with this. We've seen several headlines like this over the past several years. They're always siding with these Islamist terrorists, and it's disgusting. I also saw some articles about how some Arab leaders or Muslim leaders in the area then praise these beloved martyrs for their murderous acts, and I think that that does need to stop. I'm glad we have a president today who had the gall, I don't know if I can say this, but the balls to go speak to a bunch of Muslims and tell them that this kind of crap has to stop. 100%.
Well, Jim, thank you very much for coming on. Everybody could check out his content at The Gateway Pundit or on Twitter at Gateway Pundit. Thank you very much for coming on.
All right, Manis. Take care.